microphone or can you all hear me? Can everybody hear me? All right. So, what is, what's that? We're streaming too. So I'll try to talk loud. So, thanks for coming. So, Boomtown is a really phenomenal tool, and it's not something, so this is something the Village has. It runs the back end of the website, and it's a tool that is a CRM platform for you. Anybody know what a CRM stands for? The words, letter CRM? Customer Relationship Manager. So it is a CRM. It's a tool that allows you to keep a database and communicate with that database and also kind of watch the activity of that database. Those are the primary functions. I'm going to get into a little bit more of that, but from a basic standpoint, before we talk about how to log in, what to do, etc., I just want to talk about databases in general real quick. So what is a database? What do you have in it? It's contacts, right? And so you have a list of names. What else? First name, last name. What else would you keep? Address, phone, email, birthday, house anniversary, kids, pets, likes, maybe groups they're a part of, like if you know them from your kid's school, if you know them from church, if you know them because you went to school with them many years ago, maybe they're your neighbor, right? Things like that. Maybe who referred them to you. Maybe who is linked to their spouse. So all of those things are important things to do. Really, the deeper that you have your database, the more depth there is to it, the more valuable it is. Everybody has a little bit of a different idea of what it is. I don't like to keep random people that I barely know in my database. My database is fairly filled with people that I know and I like and I trust. And hopefully it's the same way to me. So I don't put a bunch of people that I meet at an open house randomly in there. Some people might do that. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just the way that we all work. So from just a big picture standpoint, so the Village website is here, and it's just like any other website, right? So you can search, you can do a map search just like you could. It's mobile friendly, and let's say I want to see something in this area right over here. Unusual this thing, and do whatever. House is right there. We'll show them all. Just like pretty much any real estate tool works now, right? So there's nothing extraordinary, unique to that. It's designed to be comfortable and fluent, just like everything else that a consumer might use. They can search up here. They can, put only 3 bedrooms, only things under a certain price range, right? Maybe a maximum price of $800,000, etc. So a consumer can search here. What you're going to want to do with Boomtown to make it effective is to have your consumers, your buyers, and even sellers use the Village website to search. And so the common question is, well, Zach, there's so many big sites out there. When you ask people how do they search, they say Zillow or Realtor.com or whatever it is, right? So how do we get them to use this? So who uses the RealTrax Auto Notify feature, right? Everybody, I think. So how do you use that? Do you send that to your clients? Set it up every time a listing comes to the market, it goes to them, right? So then how do you know if they open it? How do you know what they click on? How do you know if they favorite a property? Oh wait, they can't. That's right. Because it's a very basic system. It's kind of an old-fashioned system, to be honest. It's not the most effective tool in the world, but this is what we use, this is what we have. Well, Boomtown has a much better tool. Instead of being called an auto notify, it's called an e-alert. So that's one of the things we're going to learn today is how to create an e-alert, because that, at its basic form, is how you can engage your consumers, either past clients, ideally your current clients from a starting point, to use the Village website. So Boomtown is the name of the back-end system. I don't talk to my clients about Boomtown, the word Boomtown, I just say the Village website. And so, you're going to learn how to do that. You're also going to learn how to log in, how to enter somebody into it, and then we're going to learn how to sort people and how to categorize people and tag people. So there's 2 things, categories and tags, and those are just labels, and they're different types of labels, and I'll explain what they are. So there's a lot that this system can do. We're going to cover kind of the basics of it, and what you probably will use 70 or 80% of the time for the most part. So again, on the village website, you can get buying information, you can get selling information, you can look at agents, list of agents, you can do some research, you can do some, learn about selling. Let's see, selling would be, there's a cool tool on here, what's my home worth, right? So if somebody wants to see what their home is worth, they can type it in. It's the village's estimate, it's the equivalent of his estimate. It's actually pretty accurate too. So here's what happens if somebody is searching, notice right up here in the top right where it says sign in, see right there? So I'm not signed in right now. So I can see all agents just like a consumer can see. If I go to the village website as Zach the consumer, ignore the top black line for a minute. But it will say, hi Zach, oops, right there, right? Zach the consumer is signed in. So I'm not Zach the agent for a minute, I'm Zach the consumer. So when I do that, I only see one agent. Kind of neat. So you're keeping your clients focused on you. And so they can get there by going to our subdomain, by going to evansgoodyear.villagerealestate.com. Somebody can get to my little site. Or if you were my agent and you created an account for me, let's say I was a buyer, and I sat down with you just like we would sit down in a home buyer consultation, right? I'm evaluating their needs, talking about timeline, things like that. One of the first things that you might do is somebody say, all right, I'm going to set you up on an auto-notify to what? Why do you set people up on an auto-notify?
So they can see it.
So they can see it? What are buyers fearful of? Buyers are scared of three main things.
Miss their deal, miss air.
So they're scared of missing something. There's three primary fears, sometimes four in this market, but the first main fear that every single buyer has, whether they tell you or not, is they're fearful of missing out on something, missing something. And so, statistically, most buyers check 3 websites because they want to make sure that they know you're doing your job, but they just want to make sure. Plus, it's fun. They get into it, right? It's fun. So this is giving them the tools to be able to have fun and do what they want and be able to take control of the process. The other fears are they're scared of buying a broken house and they're scared of losing one of the fears is losing out on the offer, right? So, and they're scared of paying too much. So the 3 main fears are missing something, paying too much, and buying a broken house. And then sometimes in a hot market, they're scared of like losing the dream house due to a multiple offer situation. It's kind of in line with missing something. So we covered that fear. So you're sitting down with a buyer, you're saying, hey, let me show you what I'm going to do. In order to make sure you don't miss anything, and I would say those words, I'm going to set you up on we have a really cool tool on our village website that I'm going to set you up on so that you get listings all the time, right? Don't forget to say what that is, even though it's normal to us, and it might be normal to them, just tell them what you're doing. But instead of doing it on RealTrax, you can do it through here. And I would sit somebody down and actually walk them through the village website for a second, and then on the back end, in the Boomtown side of it, create an account for them, send them a login, make sure that they get logged in, and say, all right, let's create a search. You're going to create a search with them to show you, show them what they're going to get. So to get back to how do we drive people back to the website, well, you do it through those daily, weekly, or instant emails. Every time something comes in the market, changes in price, etc. Same exact as RealTrax, they just look better, and then the buyer, consumer can have a lot more control on that. Everybody with me?
How did you do your website?
So the Evans, I'll show you that in a little bit, but really don't even focus on that because I can get to sort of the Zach version, Zach and Scott and Crystal version of the website by going to evansgoodyear.villagerealestate.com. You'll have your own subdomain, but I don't even, and that's good for like marketing stuff. Like let's say you wanted to get people to you wanted to share this link, what's my home worth? Well, if you share evansgoodyear.villagerealestate.com/home-valuation and say, hey, can you tell me your home's worth? Check it out. I can put this in, and anybody want to look at their house? All right, I'm going to look at, I'll look at my house. I bought my house many years ago, Central Avenue. Oh, there it is right there. 3720 21 Central Avenue. Just go to market value. All right. Tells me what it is, 3 beds, 2 baths, 2,328 square feet, between 722 and 744.
That's low, sir.
That's low? I think that's actually pretty accurate.
Yeah, okay.
My house is not that fancy.
I'll sell it for you.
So, and I've owned it for a long time, and I paid $5 for it. I can't remember exactly, 5 something for it, but it's actually pretty accurate. I've done comps, but I'll play with comps and use it this way as well. Now, it doesn't look at every single every single house. It doesn't have an estimate for it. But before you go and just start doing that, hang tight, because if you're just a random consumer doing that, it'll ask you to create an account before you get this, right? So if you do that, we've got a few agents that are testing out a lead, kind of an online lead program to be able to respond to inquiries like this as well. We're seeing how that works. But if you do it, if you get your clients logged into this beforehand and help them get it set up, then whenever they log into Village to go do that, it always comes back to you and goes under you, and then you get to see what they're doing. So before I confuse you, yeah?
They're pulling that information from the tax records. Is that what?
I don't know where they get this information, but somewhere. I mean, it's,
Well, you can probably look at square footage and tell, is that what it said on the real tracks, or is that what it said?
so it'll say, it shows some detail here, recently sold properties, it shows kind of where it pulled some of the data from, but whatever their algorithm, just like I don't know exactly how Zillow uses it, but it's some algorithm that they've created to do it. So that's just one tool. So I'm going to back up for a minute because that's not the main tool, but that's just part of the functionality of the main Village site. So once they're logged in, once you help them log in, once Zach, the consumer, is logged in, I don't have to go to evansgoodyear.villagerealestate. I can just go to villagerealestate.com. And I'm still logged in, and it's only going to show, it's not going to say agents, it's only going to show Zach, Scott, Crystal, the realtors, right? And so you're connecting people to you. Everybody with me so far? All right. You can play with the website. Don't play with the website too much just yet, because I'm going to get you to create an account for yourself, so that you, the realtor, is going to create an account for you, the consumer. This is where it starts to get confusing. And then we're gonna play with it. All right, so don't try to log in right now. I'm just going to show you a quick overview of what Boomtown is on the back end. So this is the back end of the website. If you were to get Boomtown on your own, it's over $1,000 a month. It's insane. It's insanely expensive individually. So we've basically negotiated a big company bulk rate, which is not inexpensive, obviously, but it's not $1,000 a month, and have been able to get about 85% of the tools for free for every agent. There are a few things, and I'm going to go through those over the next 30, 40 minutes. There are a few things that if you want some additional functionality, and it makes it a little bit easier and more, I guess, more efficient is probably the best way to say it. It gives you some efficiency help if you want to spend the extra $50 a month. That's Boomtown's way of making a little extra money. So that's just what it is. We're just passing that along to you all. But what this is called Lead Central. I'll start by saying I hate the term lead. It makes me feel like I'm a human being. I'm not somebody's lead. But that's what Boomtown calls it. So I'm going to use the term lead, even though I don't like it. You'll hear me talking about it. All that is a person. It's a person in your database. Maybe it's a past client. Maybe it's a neighbor. Maybe it's your mom. Doesn't matter. It's whomever you put in. Okay? So there's a lot of stuff down here. We're not going to worry about any of that except for this. That's all we're going to care about right now is Lead Central. So whenever you do log in, sometimes for the first time, and again, try not to follow along for just a second. But you might see this. And I don't know what all those pictures mean. I can never really remember. So if you click these little lines up here, it expands it and you get words. And then this little thing, there's a little white tab with a black arrow on it. If you click that, it expands the filter tool. So that's how you sort people. But before we get into any of that, you got to figure out, how do I even start putting people in? And how do I add all those things like their address and their phone number and their birthday? So you can add people two ways. You can either do it one-on-one or you can do it in bulk. If you do it in bulk, there's instructions. I can send it out again after the meeting to everybody. But it's pretty easy. You basically create a spreadsheet. So whatever format your database is in now, if it's in a notebook, then you got to put it in a digital format. But whatever format it's in now, it'll give you kind of a guide of how to title the headers and things like that. But even if you get it wrong when you submit it, it doesn't just go into the system. It goes to a Boomtown employee, and they look at it and they make sure it's all correct. And if they see something that doesn't quite look right, they'll call you and say, "Hey, did you mean to have everybody's favorite ice cream on here, or whatever? Or where do you want us to put that?" Etc. So a human being looks at it to try to make sure that you get it in the right way, the right time, the first time. Some people, even if they have 100, 200 contacts, still want to put them in manually because they like the experience of kind of scrubbing their list and making sure their, evil mother-in-law or father-in-law is off the list. I don't know, whatever it is, right? So, but this little button right up here, that little plus with a little person, is how you add somebody. So it's pretty simple. First name, last name, email address. Right here it says send them a welcome email. So if I'm adding somebody, if I'm sitting with a buyer, I'm going to go through with it. I'm going to be on the back end. I'm going to go through and say, all right, I'm typing you in. You're going to get a welcome email after I hit submit. And then I get them on their phone and let them click on it. So what is their phone type? What is their lead description? Are they Canadian? Probably not. Address, source. This is a little annoying because there's a zillion sources, but you can start type. If you just type P, there's past client. If you type, R, there's referral somewhere in there, I think. But if you want to just type, import, you do. It doesn't really matter. I'm less worried about these. I don't really ever sort people by that. If Boomtown can communicate with a lot of other kind of lead generation platforms where you spend thousands of dollars a month to get random people to funneled into your system, and then you can communicate with them. If you want to do that, this is great for that. That's not the way 99% of the business people at Village handle their business, because most of our business is relationship based. But regardless, you have to pick something. And then if there's a lender, if they're working with Connie, you can put that. If not, you put what are they, a buyer or seller, or buyer or seller? And then you click add a lead. So once they do that, if you've got them checked here, they'll get a welcome email. I probably wouldn't send a welcome email right away to somebody that you're not sitting with or talking with, because they're probably going to think it's junk and they're going to delete it. All right? So once you do that, you start getting people in there. So we're going to look at Zach. And so I've got all my people in here, including Zach, the buyer. So Zach, the buyer, has closed on his house. There was an email sent to him 6 days ago. I've called Zach, the buyer, 4 times. I've sent him 13 emails. And I've texted him 6 times. And that's through Boomtown, or through the Boomtown app. And I'll show you how to use that. This is kind of cool. Zach, the consumer, was last on the website 12 minutes ago. It's about right. So when I logged in to show you what it looked like. So it knows that. I have a to-do that I was supposed to follow up with myself on August 31st, and then I have 3 e-alerts or auto-notifies. So it shows all of this information. I've been on the Village website 197 times. I've looked at 53 properties and I've favorited 13 of them. Oops, sorry. You with me? Anybody ever go on Amazon and add something to your cart and then realize, like, oh, I don't need that right now. I'm just going to save it for later, or favorite it, or add it to a wish list. It's the exact same thing. This is how consumers behave. You can't do any of this through RealTrax, so we're offering another tool that's more effective. So I clicked into my profile. This is just what it looks like. There are no social profiles listed under me because that's just kind of a junk email address that I use. It has my phone numbers that I put in. It has my category, and then it has some tags. We'll get into that in a second. But right over here, it gives you all those little stats that I just showed you. 197 visits, 53 properties, 13 favorites. Of those 53 properties I've looked at, my average search profile is $530,000. Kind of cool. Last logged in 13 minutes ago. Related account, that's my wife, so I got her in there. And I've combined them. My birthday's January 25th. My closing day was February 14th. I didn't remember that. That's funny. Happy Valentine's Day, Martha. She probably said that to me. So as Zach the consumer, I use this to teach classes on this, and so I'm looking all over the place. So I'm going to get out of my profile for a minute. I'm going to go into somebody who's actually real. I'm going to go into my mother-in-law's. So my mother-in-law, and you've heard me talk about my mother-in-law Sandra before at a sales meeting, but this is her profile. Now notice this. That's her. Hi Sandra. Everybody say hi Sandra. So Sandra's very nice. I did not take that picture of her. I did not upload it either. It just knows. How does it know? Well, did you see there was a link that said no social profiles found under me? So it found a Facebook and a Twitter profile for Sandra. And it links those. I found one that 99% of the time they're accurate. I'm sure it can misdiagnose it at some point, but based on a phone number and or a email address, it'll search for social media accounts. So it's automatically doing things behind the scenes for you to try to pull in data and information. Sometimes if you get somebody that just goes to your website, let's say you posted that, evansvideo.villagerealestate.com/home valuation, and said, hey, curious about your home valuation, feel free to search. And somebody randomly starts to do it, or like one of your social media friends, if they come in, it'll start asking them to create an account, usually through Facebook. And sometimes it'll start searching databases and it'll actually plug their home address in for you. So I don't know how all that stuff works, but a lot of times it does. So just know that there's some stuff happening behind the scenes that's pretty cool. Everybody with me right now? All we're talking about is just somebody's profile. I'm just kind of give you a sense of the layout of this. Because if you first look at it, it's overwhelming. If you try to give our real tracks to a consumer and said, hey, go search for properties, they'd probably have a pretty hard time with like, what is an area? What are all these, it's complex, but once you get the hang of the basics, you'll be able to figure it out. All right, so Sandra was a real buyer. She is closed. She just closed on the property back in July at 4487 Post Place, number 72. She closed it for $310,000. So Sandra had a Bristol West End 1-bedroom. She was looking for a 2-bedroom because she wanted to be able to take our kids when she visits from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So it's a very nice mother-in-law. And so she was in town this weekend, which is why Martha and I got to go have a weekend in Swanee or a night away in Swanee, which is awesome. Did not have kids for a minute. It's been a long time since I've been able to do that. And so she has this place now. It's a 2-bedroom place. But when she started looking, she said, what are the questions we ask people when they start looking? Probably 2 main questions. How much?
What size?
And what size and when, right? So like price and timeline probably. So what do you want? Through 3 things. What do you want? How much you want to spend? And when you want to do it? She said, well, I can spend up to $450 and I can, I really want a 2-bedroom close to you all. And we live on Central Avenue, right off West End Avenue, kind of near Ellington Park where 440 crosses. Bristol West End is a property that's just on the other side of 440, so it was like 5 minutes away, 7 minutes away. Kind of wanted to be in that range, right? So those were her parameters, but she said up to 450. What I started looking at, which is kind of cool, she was my first test case on Boomtown. And we were testing it out. I said, all right, I want you to search on this site. And she's in her 70s, probably. She's not, I don't know how old she is. Her birthday's up here. I probably should know. All right, 1949. She's not in her 70s. What is she? She's 70. She just turned 70. She knows those things. All right. So what Boomtown did, now remember, she's been to the property, she's been to the website 71 times. She looked at 26 properties. She didn't have any favorites because she maybe didn't know how to do that. But that's her profile. Now remember, how much did she say she was willing to spend? Up to what? $450. What does her average activity say? 306. That's a big difference, right? So she wasn't lying, but I was sending her stuff up to $450, and she liked the idea of Bristol West End. There was gated parking, there was a pool, there was, a little gym. It was convenient, and she liked that. But to do that with a 2-bedroom, you're basically in that area. You're going to spend at least $400 plus, right? but her activity is showing otherwise. So I'm sending her listings, and so she's clicking on some of them, but really she's clicking on the less expensive ones and kind of avoiding the bigger ones. And so here's her profile of price range. 46% of what she looked at online was in the 200,000s. 35% was in the 300s. Only 15% was in the 400,000. And then that under 100,000, that was probably a rental or something that she saw. Because she's probably trying to figure out how much do I rent my place for if I wanted to rent it versus sell it or whatever. But that's her profile of where she's looking. The majority of where she's looking is in the 200,000s and 300,000s. So up to 450, there's only 4 properties that she looks at over $400,000. So she's saying one thing but behaving differently. I would have never known that if it hadn't have been for this. So then you say, okay, that's pretty cool, Zach, but like, what do you do with it? Well, I started thinking the same thing. How do I use this to try to find out more information or to help her or to create results out of it? You can also see what type they are, the number of bedrooms she was looking at, number of bathrooms, square footage range, the city if she's looking all over the place. So you can get a pretty good range of what somebody's looking at based on this data. This is all included in the free portion. So if I wanted to see specifics of all the properties she looked at, I could look at that. I could look at the properties the time she's been on the website, the properties she's looked at. I'm not going to get into all that now. And I did look a little bit at that, but I knew what she was looking for. She liked the idea of having a pool. She liked the idea of secure parking, but really what it was some sense of security, right? She didn't want to be coming home from our house late at night and get mugged. So she wanted some place where she could feel like she could park. So maybe it's a gated area or whatever. She also liked the idea of something that was kind of shinier and newer, but that price range didn't match what she was looking for. So I started thinking, I thought, what are the areas that are closer to town that might feel secure but need a little bit of work? And one of them that popped up was Lion's Head. Anybody know where Lion's Head condominiums is? So it's behind the Target and like the Wendy's right there, White Bridge. It's sort of tucked away. It's on Post. A lot of people don't know it's there. If you've never shown it, you probably wouldn't know it's there. There's a little guardhouse. It's sometimes staffed, but it looks sort of imposing. And there's a lot of people that I think she would get along with there. And so I think she would feel secure. I'm not talking about like safety or breaking any rules here. I'm just talking about her sense of feeling security, right? So she hadn't really been focused on that. She'd been kind of thinking about the shiny stuff and looking at other stuff. And so I saw one of these come on the market, and I told Martha, I said, let's just go look at it. This might be a good thing for her. She didn't know about it. We took some pictures. We FaceTimed her and said, hey, we're here. Take a look. What do you think? And she was like, oh, that's really good. The bathroom was kind of ugly. Easy to change, right? Got a contractor. She's not even in town. It's not. We can have that done. I can coordinate that. She can write a check and have that done remotely before she even gets here if she wants. The kitchen needed a little bit of sprucing up. So we can get that newer feel. She has the sense of security. And this is a 2-bedroom place listed at $319. So she was like, huh, that's really intriguing. I like it. I think I like it. Let me come in town. She thought about writing an offer just sight unseen right there. She came in town a few days later, looked at it and said, I like it, let's do it. Wrote an offer and closed on it a couple weeks later. And I don't know if I would have done that if I would have just listened to her and what she said she wanted, rather than being able to read between the lines. This helps you read between the lines. Does that make sense? This is one example of, I think, a successful how I was able to use this data to talk to, or to help a buyer actually close on something. So just any questions so far? Yeah.
Yeah, on that little pie graph area, I'm reading it right. Can you click on any one of those topics and see the same kind of information? Like,
Yes, so zip code. So she was, looking at most of her stuff was in 05, a little bit in 03, and a couple in 09.
like neighborhood, for instance?
So neighborhood, so it was looking at, so neighborhood was the subdivision name of the MLS system, right? So maybe West End Place, Park Circle, Belmead Court, so just a few of those, the Continental, Wellington Arms, Park West Court, other. Line says not even on there. She wasn't looking at it. Obviously other is 50%, but it gives you just the top ones. Yeah, so area, city. So city would be more, I guess, helpful if you're in, an area where somebody's looking at a wider scale. Square footage range, she was pretty honed in on what she needed, but you can click on that and say, I actually looked at, most of the stuff she looked at was over 1,000 square feet. It's a 2-bedroom, it's going to be, for the most part, over 1,000 square feet. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
So anything with a link you can do. So again, I can see on Tuesday, July 16th, she looked at one property. I can see what those properties are. If I want to click on all that, I can see all the website visits. That takes me over here. I can also see the searches that she's created, or the searches that she's been searching, right? So when she's looking for things, and I don't remember what these were, but I can view the search that she's done basically on that, or I guess that's the ELO results. So if somebody if she was searching on her own, the ELO brought her back to the website. If she was searching on her own, then it tracks all that stuff. Always watching. But that's okay. I tell people that I can see what you do. It's not creepy. I tell buyers, hey, this allows me to help see your behaviors and your patterns, and that's going to help me get a better understanding of what you really want.
Have you gotten any pushback on that ever? Like where someone's like, ew, I don't. Yeah.
If somebody pushes back, I will guarantee you every single website that is up to speed these days can do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
How do you think those shoes followed you around that you looked at 2 weeks ago? You're still seeing them. You haven't bought them yet, but they're ready for you to buy them. Trust me, they're watching.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
I've been sitting here doing this and putting in some things as we're going along, and every property type I put in, specific addresses, it comes up zero beds, and all the ads are wrong on every listing, and all the square footage is wrong. Because I sold houses and one of them's mine. So I know they're all.
That's on a search of.
I just put in the address, to search property.
Let me look at that afterwards. I don't know what that's. I haven't seen that before.
Okay.
Maybe try. I don't know if you're in a different browser. Maybe try something in a different browser. Something's wacky. I'm not sure what it is. All right. I want to talk about categories and tags. So once you have people in there, let's say you have 300 or 400 people in there. We have, and 3 of us share a database in one. But we have 470 leads, right? 470 people in there. So that's a lot to just go through. Now, in a perfect world, you go through your database once a week, and you kind of figure out, all right, let me focus on them a little bit. Let me think about who's got a change in their life coming up. Who do I need to communicate with? I haven't talked to that person in a while, but I saw on social media they just got back from a 2-week trip to Europe. I should call them and ask them how it was. All that stuff, right? So these are my leads, right? So if I refresh this, I've sorted these by last visit. This is actually somebody who literally was just on the website even before me. He was on the website 2 minutes ago. Sometimes it says online now. They're there actively looking. But I've got people in different categories. So this guy is I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but he told us just to call him QJ. So that's what we do. We call him QJ. And he's from China, and he's working at Vanderbilt, and he was referred to us by my next door neighbor. And so QJ is hot. That's his category. Categories are Boomtown specific. You cannot change them. Like you can't rename them. This is what they are. They're all based on their transactional steps. So somebody's, if you just first add somebody, they're called new. If you talk to them at all, like let's say it's a person that kind of randomly came in or whatever off a Facebook post, they would come in as new. Once you talk to them, you would want to change them to qualified. And you don't have to use these, but if you want to use them as a way to help sort down your list of, hey, I want to see who my hot buyers are right now, you do that. More importantly, I want to see who my kind of nurtured and watched. So watch is kind of a cool list. Nurture would be more of a warm list. They're not ready to buy now, but they're probably going to do it in the next 6 months. And then hot is obviously, they're ready to buy if something comes to the market. Once they go pending, you can categorize them as pending or closed. And then you can say, hey, I want to see all my past clients that have closed a property with me. You can sort and show all your closed categories. What's up?
So, I put a couple in the trash. Doesn't the database automatically scrub that?
So the database will not, so once somebody's in here, they never get deleted. So you can't accidentally delete somebody. which is good. But if you don't want to see them, you can put them as trash, and then basically you can use some filters to hide them. Please don't put me in trash. So maybe if QJ bought something tomorrow, then we change it to pending, right? So Zach, the buyer, is listed as closed. Jen is a seller and a buyer. So she's a buyer and a seller. But she's under contract. So that's categories, right? There's also something called tags. So the basic, and every CRM has some version of this, and it used to confuse the hell out of me. And somebody in this class actually said, I look at it as buckets and stickers, and I thought that's a good way to look at it. So categories are buckets. Generally speaking, consider it like tall buckets. You can only be in one bucket at a time, right? I can't be in this bucket and that bucket at the same time. So I'm either a warm, a nurtured person, or I'm a hot buyer, or I'm a pending buyer, or I'm a closed buyer, or seller, right? I can't be multiple things. But tags are like stickers. I can have a lot of flair. Anybody seen Office Space? All the flair, right? So you can have a lot of that stuff. You can have a lot of flair, a lot of stickers, pins. Those are tags. So somebody might be your next door neighbor. They're also your friend. They also went to college with you. They also are part of a running group that you're a part of. Those are all tags. And so you can create your own tags. There's some predefined tags, but you can create your own. And that is a really cool way to help just shorten your list so it's not overwhelming. Obviously, you have to go in and do that, but that's an exercise that you can do little by little, consistently, over time, just a little bit. Easy to do, easy not to do, right? The salesman this morning. So, I've just played around with tags. So, I wouldn't consider myself an investor, but if I was an investor, then I could, maybe I'm an investor, I guess, in certain things. And so I'm listed as an investor, is local. I've got myself set up for Lolo and Davidson County, so I can pull that list. I've got myself on the Davidson County newsletter and the Williamson County newsletter. I have a past client, Zach the buyer. I have an upsizing or growing family. And then this is just a tag that I created because Scott Evans, Crystal Hutton, and I all share one database. We're a small team, group, whatever you want to call it. We all work together. And so we all share one database. It's just a little easier that way. And so that's, if you have a partnership with somebody, I would probably suggest that. But in order to just see who I'm working with, I could go over here and say, in this Lead Central, that's all we're working on right now, I just want to see the people tagged with Scott Evans. So we go from 470 down to 143. So Scott can click on that and see all the people that he's been the primary point person on. You with me? Much more manageable than going through and be like, I don't know, this must be Zach's person, I don't know what it is. That way he's not like messing with my people. So make me mad. Don't mess with my people. Right? So that's a helpful thing. He could also say, I want all of my people that are also neighbors. Right? I doubt he has any people. Oh, this is not or, this is you can include or exclude, I think. So this is either. So Scott Evans and people that are listed as neighbors. And I think under advanced lead filters you can do it like, so I want only people with Scott and only neighbors, things like that. You can sort this in a variety of different ways. So what do you do after you sort? Maybe you just want to look at people and focus on them. Maybe you want to see who's engaged. Maybe you want to say, hey, who do I have an e-alert set up for, or who do I not? So who would you have an e-alert set up for? This auto notifies. Hot leads that are active, usually buyers, right? Maybe sellers, so they know what's going on in their neighborhood. Think about that for a minute. Neighborhood. Who else might want to know a neighborhood activity report? Maybe every month. Past clients. It's a great way to keep in touch with past clients. Automatically, you don't have to do a thing. You set it up, it goes to them. You can set it up to go instantly, hourly, daily, bi-weekly, weekly, monthly, things like that. But you can do a monthly setup, so you can set that up and drive people back to the site. What's up?
So if you have someone on a lead seller for the neighborhood or whatever, 2 years from now they're still on that email and they decide to click off of it, does it show you that they clicked off of it?
I think it shows you that, yeah, it does show you that they clicked off of it. In fact, I think there's a thing up here that says you can do, I think in advanced lead filters, you can do opted out. Communications, email status, opted out. So you could do, you could sort by people that have opted out. You can find just about anything. I mean, this is a super complex database. Most of you are not going to use a lot of what this can do, but it can do a lot. I'm trying to kind of give you the basic things without being redundant, although a little bit redundant so that you remember what we talk about. All right, so what we've learned so far. You can log in, we're going to talk about that in a second. Lead Central. This little thing is just how to filter people if you don't want to see all 470 or however many you have. And then this, you can sort. I like to sort it by last visit so I know who's actively engaged in the site. It shows people that are actively engaged in green, and then after a few days it starts showing people, they've been on there a while, and then after that they're kind of gray. They're not really engaged. So you hadn't communicated with them in a while. That might be fine. But most of your active buyers should be looking. So, any questions so far on that?
Does it keep track of bounced emails?
It does keep track of bounced emails. I'm not sure exactly how, but I know I've seen that before.
I know we've got a lot of cleanup to do.
Mhm.
People who change that.
Yes, I think, and that might be in the advanced lead filters from a communication standpoint, email status, valid address, maybe.
Invalid address.
Is there an invalid too?
Right down the bottom.
There you go, invalid address. Okay, so you can sort that. Maybe 3 or 4 people come up and you can say, oh man, that's one of my buddies. I just need to call and say, I have your email wrong. I was trying to set you up on a monthly market update. Oh, it's a J and not an L. Okay, got it.
I just noticed online that somebody signed up as a lead.
Okay.
And then I don't have that address after. How the heck did that happen?
You got an email that somebody signed up as.
I just was looking at my leads.
So what you probably have, that's a great question. So she said, I see people who are,
That I didn't put it,
that I didn't put in there, or I see people that are, that are not in there. Or you got an email saying you got a new lead, but you're not seeing them in there. So what you probably have is a bunch of filters up here.
Well, they're in there, I didn't put them.
They're in there, but you didn't put them in there.
Right, they put themselves in.
Okay.
Does that mean they were searching on village.com and
That probably
saw
means,
my listing outside or something?
I don't know who people are.
that probably means, yeah, so there are some random people that could just come across your website. So if they go to the village page and then they click on your profile and then they start looking at, like, oh, she seems like she's nice, I've heard of her name, or maybe they,
So I need to contact somebody, so I said we need to contact.
yeah, you can email them and you can see what they looked at. And if it's something totally random and you don't want to contact them, just put it as trash. So that'll happen every now and then. All right, so I want to show you how to set up an auto notify, also called an e-alert in here. So this is the one, you have 3 pieces of homework. One is to log in, which if you don't know how to do that, I'll show you how to do it. The second is to add at least somebody, could be yourself. I would use a different email address, add yourself, a spouse, whatever. Don't add each other because you're going to want yourself under your account. And then to create an e-alert. So those are the 3 things that you're going to want to do.
What was the last one?
After this. So create an e-alert, which is an auto notify. So again, lots of data here. If you need to edit something, you can click edit profile. But all of this stuff, just look at it, and for the most part, you'll be able to see what it is that you're seeing. So recent website visits down here, it shows that. Recent property valuations, remember I've linked to that a couple times. So I was logged in as Zach the consumer, and I valued that property. You'll get a note of that. So to set up an e-alert, I have 3, actually you can delete that one. So I have 2 that are set up. One for 1212, the other for Richland West End. I've just done these. Obviously I've been a bad consumer. I haven't opened them in 76 days. But they go to a kind of junk mail account that I don't check. But it says when the last one was sent, and I can see what I did. So I'm not going to worry about editing that for a minute. I'm going to create a new one. So there's 4 options here: system e-alert, blank e-alert, search history, and template. You're going to want to click blank e-alert. You could create a system e-alert if one of your consumers has enough information based on their habits and the system, the algorithms identify, you know what, they're looking a lot on the west side of town. Most of their stuff has been between 300 and 450, and they've been only looking at 2 bedrooms and higher. Once it starts to gather that data, you can click System Alert and it'll go, and it'll just create one at the click of a button. I like to have a little more control than that, so I like to create one from scratch. If you've ever created one in RealTracs, you can do it in here. It's about the same thing. So I'm going to click Create Blank E-Alert, and a little thing will come up, and it's a map. And right over here, there's a little hand and a little polygon tool. Let's say I want to create a map search for, oops, right here. Right, so there's my little thing. Oh, I need to extend it a little bit further down here, right? You with me? You can zoom in, you can zoom in, you can go full screen, you can do that here. So that's my map search. Let's say I only want single families, price range, maximum of, $500,000, that's $5 million. So 500,000, minimum of 2 bedrooms, same exact stuff, right? Obviously, the more you narrow it down, the less they'll get. So it depends on how you want to do it. But I would sit with the buyer and I would talk to them about this. If nothing else, it's a good prompt to talk about what they want. Garage. You said you wanted a garage, right? Is that a necessity? Nah, it'd be nice. If it's just nice, are you going to click on it or not? Probably not, because they're only going to get stuff in the garage. Or you're relying upon what the consumer, what the other agent has entered in the MLS. But most agents get garage right. They might not get like flat lot, hilly lot correct. Just stretch it. All right, so all those lots of different things, what style, what view, etc. All those things, right? If there are any keywords are matched to the text in the public remarks, street address, postal code, MLS number. So if you're like, I only want to be in, or I want to be in 37205. Or 37212, whatever. 37067. The e-alert type, if you click buyer or seller, it just changes. So a buyer defaults to sending active properties only. A seller defaults to sending under contract, pending, and sold. You might want to send them active properties too. So you can set one up for a seller for their own neighborhood where your listing is on a daily basis or an hourly basis or whatever, and keep them abreast of what the activity is. Does anyone do that with sellers? I would do it. I did it through RealTracs, now I do it through here. It's just a great way to keep people engaged. So whatever it is, that little buyer seller thing doesn't really matter. It just shows, it kind of automatically picks some things. So sent by, you can't change that. That's who it's sent by. It's sent to, that's the lead that you're under. And you can call the email subject. What would you want to call it? Like new listings and price changes in your area. That's the primary login. If I want to send it to another email, do not put a spouse or someone else here. This is only for like a work email there. And I'll show you why in a minute, but what that does is it tracks all this behavior and then it uses that for predictive analytics. And if you put a spouse in there, it's going to constantly start flagging you. Hey, this person's looked at it from multiple devices, multiple locations. They really like this property. They looked at it 2 times, but really it's just the 2 spouses looking at it. So, what's that? It's driving you nuts, right? So if you're going to have, so what you can do is if you want to save something for a spouse, you could save this search as an e-alert template, and then basically attach that template to the other spouse in 2 clicks. Make sense? That's just a little thing that's a little squirrely. All right, active any length of time. Maybe you don't want to send them every active listing, but just new listings since yesterday, or last 3 days, or whatever, right? Under contract, pending, sold, whatever you want. Price reductions, just newest since yesterday. Only listings for virtual tours or open houses. I would never click that, but if somebody's just obsessed with open houses in their neighborhood, yeah, no problem. I'll send you all the listings with open houses in your neighborhood. And then how often do you want to get it? Do you want to get it never, instantly, daily, twice a week, weekly, twice a month, or monthly? So you can set this up. Most people would want to get it instantly. I think if they're actively looking, to send them as soon as it picks up on real tracks, which it does pretty quickly, it'll send it. So you can save it as a template, like, you know, this is Susie Q search, right? And then pull it up for her husband. Make sense?
So like auto notify on real tracks, let's say they want to look in this neighborhood and they also want to look in East Nashville, you can set up for a single person, a dual.
I would just do two different dealers, two different auto
Yeah,
notifiers.
but with the same client, you could.
Oh yeah. The cool thing is they can start creating their own. They can manage them. They can change them. They have the power. They have the control under their account. As a consumer, under their account, right? This is me as the agent. I mean, me as the consumer right here. I can look at my favorites. I've got saved searches right there. Right? I just deleted one of those, but I want to manage those things. You know, I'm tired of getting them e-alerts instantly. I'm just going to do it weekly now. I don't even, maybe daily. I'll just do it daily. I don't need a bunch of emails every day. I can save that. I have control as a consumer. It's kind of nice. And then, look what just happened. Zach the agent just got to see exactly what Zach the consumer just did. This is your little, this thing down here shows just a log of everything that happens. It's okay.
Okay, so when an agent puts in their database or like their old like contacts or something for different client lists, how does that communicate to that client to start creating an account? Or like, does it prompt them to, or when they log into the website and they use that email address, it's like, oh, you already have a
If they try to log in with that email address, most of the time, so here's where, if somebody's just looking on the website, the question was, how does somebody know to be able to create an account to log in under you? And that's a great question. So one option is you're sitting with a buyer, right, under Boomtown, the back end, and you use that little button, oops, that little thing right there, and you add somebody, you can check this little box. It says, send a welcome email. If you do a bulk import, there's another box that says, do you want to send everybody you're importing a welcome email? I do not check that because I want to be able to do it kind of little by little. I'm a little control freak, so I like to be able to not have them think it's spam, and I want to call people and say, hey, we got this cool new website. I'm setting you up on a monthly email that's just going to give you all the activity in your neighborhood. If you don't want it anymore, you can opt out or just tell me, but I think it's a pretty cool thing just to know what's going on, and that way you'll have an update of what your neighbor's house is sell for. Is that cool? How you doing, by the way? It's good talking with you. All right. And then you can reach out and communicate with people. Say, all right, I'm going to send it right now. And then they can do that. What it does, I don't remember exactly what that email looks like, but it's obvious, like, hey, an account's been created for you. Click here to verify. But if somebody just goes on randomly and they start searching for properties, like newest listings here, I'm going to see this, and it's going to let them look at 4 photos. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it's going to say, hey, you love it? We just gave you a little, give us a little. So you can continue with Facebook, or you can create an email address, create an account, but most people will just click continue with Facebook. And then it starts linking a bunch of stuff and searches their thing. So if they are on your subdomain site and do that, then they'll go to you. If they're just on the village site and they do that, they'll go to, we have a small team of people that are handling those leads right now. We're just testing them out to kind of see what the best practices are, and then if that's something that you're interested in, we can talk about that another time. But we're trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. So if it's just a random person that is coming to you, then it could be, for the people that have random people in there, it could have been when we first turned you on, maybe that setting was turned on to get kind of the random leads. Or somebody just clicked on your profile on the main website and started looking under your stuff. Not exactly sure, but that's probably where those came from. Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
Sort of? Halfway?
I was asking on behalf of it.
Oh, very good. Thank you. That was good. All right, so that's pretty much the main thing that I wanted to get through today. the more you have in here, the better. So there's some default things. So I want to say, all right, who's got a birthday in the next 7 days? I can click on that and say that all these people, this is not under my account anymore, this is under the admin, but all these people have birthdays over the next 7 days. Anniversaries, home anniversaries over the next 7 days. These people have home anniversaries, right? You with me? If you start not being able to find people, just click clear right up here and it'll clear everything out. Except as an admin, it shows my name, so I don't want to clear that because I just want to see my people. What other questions y'all have? Where you lost?
You said there's an app for this as well?
Is there what?
Is there an app for this as well, you said?
There is an app for this. So, it looks like there's a so the little icon for it is that. And it's called Boomtown Now. But before I jump into that, I want to show you one last feature of this. We got 4 minutes, and then I can show you how, for anybody who still needs help logging in, I can show you that. So the one cool feature about all this, or one of the cool features is, everything I've shown you right now is included. You don't have to pay anything extra for it. You can look and see what people are doing. You can look and see when they've gone to properties multiple times. You can sort by their last visit. If you've got a lot of people that you're working with, and you want the system to use some predictive analytics to help you manage those people and to kind of wave a hand in your face and say, hey, you should probably call this person. One of the features that the $50 a month piece does is called the Now Wall. So this little trying to be able to show you on the screen. All right, so the Now Wall is right up here. See it? Does this stress people out with their little things there? So the Now Wall says I have 11 people since I clicked on it last. So what that does is it shows, it starts saying, Jen Everham has looked at 714 Center Point Lane, plus 6 other houses. She was last on an hour ago. It was her 21st view of this property. I should probably call her. The funny thing is that's actually her house. And she's just obsessed with looking at the pictures of her house. And it's hilarious because I think she looks at the pictures and she's like, our living room doesn't really look that good. Then I look at the pictures and like, it's so bright in there. So we've got her under contract, but she's still looking at her house. So if I was kind of tired of seeing that, I could say dismiss. Oops. I could say dismiss, right? And I could say this time only, or like I'll dismiss it for a week or whatever, right? I'll just say this time only. So I don't need to see Jen, but I can click on her profile over here and see. I can click on her profile and still see the same information. It just doesn't yell it at me like this. So profile updated, I updated an e-alert, right? So I did that myself as a consumer, Zach the consumer. So it's like, whoa, hey, Zach the consumer, I haven't talked to Zach the consumer in a little bit. He's closed. He was getting a monthly neighborhood market update for the last 2 years. He's on the site now. It's kind of interesting. David, that's Jen's fiance. They're already under contract, but he's still looking. Obviously, it's second view in 24 hours. It's the 11th view of this house. Makes me a little nervous, but okay. I mean, seriously, it's like.
And they're looking at others.
And they're looking at others. So, like,
Not scary.
pay attention to that. Hey, look, have you ever had anybody do that? Like, go under contracts with the house and then keep looking and then fall in love with another one? Yeah. It happens sometimes. So, Elizabeth Black, this is a cool one. So, this is her third view, 475. She's out of town, she's coming in. These are real buyers and real people. Crystal's working with her. She told us she wanted to be in the Gulch. She's like, I want to be in the Gulch. That's where everybody is. That's what I hear. It's a cool thing. And she wants a condo. She wants to be in the Gulch. Well, This is the third time she's looked at an Annalicia unit. And in fact, I've seen her come up in the last 2 weeks. Every time something's changed with anything in the Annalicia, she's looking at it. Is the Annalicia high rise in the Gulch? It's not. It's near Vanderbilt, right? So it's not actually in the Gulch. So saying one thing, but behavior patterns are showing another. I now know that, so I can go out and we're doing this and we're trying to beat the bushes and say, hey, if anybody has anything coming up in the Annalicia, she's coming in town in 2 weeks. Let us know. We haven't told her that we're doing all that yet. But talk about adding value. That's really cool. Like we can add more value based on being able to see what she's doing. You with me? Did Tracy update her email preferences? If I want to say, hey, what did Tracy do? Tracy's no longer my friend. Because Tracy has globally opted out of all email communications. All right, Tracy, way to go. Way to be. Tracy doesn't live in Nashville anymore, and I hope to buy her house, and then she listed it with somebody else, but that's okay. Don't hold a grudge, Tracy. Tracy's very nice. Then she called me and was like, hey, I just want to know, I want you to know, we put our house on the market. If you have anybody who's interested in it, please bring them by. I was like, oh, great. But you know what? Whose fault is that, really? You got to look in the mirror. Like, if I really was honest with myself, and I don't know how much I called her, she was a little bit challenging, and so I didn't follow up with her the way I normally do with people. And that's the cost you pay, right? Brian Garcia's browsing 7 days ago, browsing. So you see all sorts of stuff here, but it sometimes will say it's looked at, this person's looked at the same property 3 times, or they've looked at the same property from multiple locations, or they've looked at, whatever, right? I don't know what the algorithm is. I've tried to ask them, they won't tell me, but it knows, there's like 21 points of behavior patterns that it uses to try to shout at people. So to me, that's worth $50 a month all day long. Boomtown knows that, that's why they charge it. In addition, so that's what it is. The other 2 things that you get for the $50 a month that are useful. One is if you want to be able to text people from the app from a different phone number. I don't really care to do that, but you can do that. They obviously have to pay for a second phone number, and you can do that for the app. And then the third thing, from a convenience standpoint, we load all the newsletters on there. Caitlin back there very nicely designs a newsletter for everyone. For Davidson and Williamson counties right now. So let's say I wanted to send Davidson County newsletter to everybody. Actually, you know what? I've got people categorized. So let's say I just want to send the newsletter Davidson County. I'm going to select this, and I'm going to go from well, that's not. There it is. All right, I'm going to go from 470 leads, people in my database, down to newsletter Davidson County, down to 415. So most of my people are in Davidson County. I'm going to select all. And this does not show up if you don't have the $50 a month plan. I can still send an email one by one, no problem, like a newsletter if you just want to send it one by one. But if I want to do a bulk action, select all, send email, message templates, Davidson County, boom, there it is, beautifully designed. She puts events in there, she puts how's the market stuff, it looks great, sports schedules, warm fuzzy stuff. And where it says agent first name, agent last name, there's like a mail merge thing. That doesn't say it, it says your info in there. So it comes from you, puts your phone number, and then I click, it even puts a subject line in there, and then I just click send. I'm not going to do that because I already did it. But that's like, I don't know, 30 seconds of time. So it saves time, Boomtown knows that, so they charge a little extra for that. But if you wanted to, you could go and just do it individually to everybody. Make sense? Those are the 3 main areas where if those are valuable to you, then let Chris in the hub know that you want to do the enhanced plan. It's called an active user or something. Just tell me you want the $50 a month plan. What questions do you have?
The Lolo will be integrated into this soon?
So Lolo is, yeah, so you
Is
can,
that the
so Lolo, you can tag people, remember tags are the stickers, the flare? So you can tag people with Lolo Davidson County if they're in Davidson County. You can tag people with Lolo Williamson County if they're in Williamson County. And then you won't have to upload or keep a separate database on Lolo. It'll just pull. And I got to check with Chris. Last week we were really close to having that done, and then hopefully it's done now. But I'm not totally sure. But but that's convenient too. So
Now, is that $50 also?
that to be able to do that, that's the $50 a month as well. So there's some enhanced benefits, but again, don't worry about that. Homework, what's the homework? Log in. And so this is where people get confused too. Some people start logging in and they're like, I'm logging in right here. What's wrong with this? Are you logging in as yourself an agent or as a consumer? Don't do that. Log in on this website, which is, you can go to crm.villagetn.com if that's easier to remember. Or you can go to leads. It's the same thing, it just forwards to that. But I always forget the ROI, so leads.boomtownroi.com. I was trying to go to leads.boomtown.com, I can't ever figure out why it doesn't work. So leads.boomtownroi.com. And so that will let you log in. So if you don't have a login, if you've never logged in before, it's going to be under your Village TN address. And if you need a login, you can ask me afterwards, you can ask Chris. Caleb, Mom, we can all help and just look it up and resend you a login link if you need one. But if the easiest way to do it is just type in your, Zach at villagetn.com and then click forgot my password. Right? I don't want to mess up whatever I'm doing here, but forgot your password and you can resend it to yourself. Make sense? So once you do that and you're logged in, what's the next thing you're supposed to do? Quick homework. Add somebody.
Add yourself.
Add yourself. Add yourself as a consumer. And then you can go in and log in on the website. It's cool if you use if whatever email address you have associated with a Facebook account, go ahead and log in with that. Add yourself with that. Send yourself a welcome email. And then go on the website and click continue with Facebook or just manually log in as the consumer. People get a little bit confused, understandably, back and forth with that. But that's just to play with it. And then you can set yourself up on an e-alert. Cool? Alright. We're at 11:30, so I want to be respectful of time. Any other questions? I know there was a lot of nitty-gritty stuff, and sometimes it's kind of boring, but it gives you the basics of how to play with it. And you got to play with it to be able to learn it.
Did you say there were instructions about the bulk imports on there, or are you going to send that out?
There are, so I'll do both, but I'll show you how to do it. So there are a lot of other tabs down here. This thing does way more than what I've shown you. But remember what Hunter said? Don't look at the 25, let's look at the top 3. Log in, add yourself, add a couple people if you want. Even if you're in a bulk import later, you can still add a couple people who won't duplicate them. And then set up somebody on an e-alert. Yourself or a past client. But down here where it says support, this is your friend. Support, you can contact support, there's training resources, there's live webinars, all kinds of stuff. And then there's a help portal. So the help portal is like Wikipedia for Boomtown. And so if you go to bulk, what do you call it? I don't remember it was just like imports. Oh, Lead Central bulk import leads. That's probably what I want. Let's click on it. Alright, here's the article. There's a little YouTube video on how to do it. Gives you instructions, prioritize, prepare your spreadsheet. You want to make a copy of a spreadsheet? Click here. It'll show you all the things to how to reach out to your stuff. Check auto start settings for Smart Trip. I'm not going to get into that, but there's a whole series of things that the plan does through Smart Trip campaigns where it can basically start communicating with your clients on artificial intelligence wise. It's kind of fascinating, but that's like phase 2 or 3 to learn about. So don't worry about that right now. You got to at least have 10 leads. Remember, the human being look at that, and if they get 2 leads, they're going to be like, oh, dude, I'm really wasting my time with this. So make sure it's at least 10. And then first and last name must be in separate columns. And you just click this, complete pre-import questionnaire, and it'll ask you some questions, and then you can choose a file and upload it. And again, if there's a problem with it, they'll call you or email you. Make sense? But that little help portal and that training resource is your friend. If you do take the training, there's live webinars which are really helpful. They're about an hour long, but they're super engaging. I thought they were going to be boring, so I wanted to watch a recorded one because one of them was on Tuesday mornings, and I got a little frustrated with the wasn't my best day, but I got a little frustrated with the support people. I'm like, I can't watch a webinar on Tuesday mornings. Can you please send me a link to a recorded version? I can't sign up for live ones because they're sales meetings. Please, you know. And then I remember we take some Tuesdays off. So I ended up working out, and they did, but they said, we still encourage you to try to get on a live one because it's going to be a lot more impactful. And so I listened to them, go figure, and I did. And it actually was really impactful. So there's probably 15 or 20 people in this room, and these people are talking, and they're calling out and saying, hey, Zach, what do you think about this? How do you do it? Or where are you struggling? I'm like, oh, I'm typing in my response. So you got to be on your toes. Don't try to do something else while you're watching it because they will call you out. But it's fun. That's the way you learn, right? Before I start calling people out, anybody have any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all for coming. I know this is a lot, but just play with it. Try those 3 things, and then we'll get into the more advanced stuff another time. Thanks.